There's been a lot of concern and talk about housing recently.
A
There in
ton.
a ton, right? So the increase in housing prices during the pandemic, the increase in interest rate to try to quash the levels of inflation or price increases, and not just of housing prices and interest, but also of rent. And now it's hard to find people to rent, and it's a whole thing. So we thought we had to do a podcast episode about housing and talk about the housing crisis overall and what it really means for our financial futures.
Again, welcome to Wealth Wisdom Financial Podcast. When conventional financial thinking doesn't get you where you need to go, you need wealth wisdom. Now, today you'll notice we are in a different location again. We are getting better and better at this cool background and all kinds of fun stuff. But I want to take us back to a couple years ago. We did a video recent or 3 years ago about is it a good time to buy a house and should you buy? And things have changed a lot. We actually bought our house March 13th of 2020. You probably,
Friday, March 13th.
yeah, you probably know where you were that day. We were closing on a house and we were like, is this a good time or a bad time to buy? I don't know.
Right. And
And
all the speculation that housing prices were actually going to go down because there is this pandemic
yes,
happening and there could be a recession. And yet housing prices soared.
it was a great time.
Yeah, it was. So, but a lot's changed since then. Interest rates, right? Like we were talking about at the top of the episode, have been astronomical. We wanted to do a podcast episode about it. So here it is.
With math
With
and
the
using our amazing vibe board, we were like, oh, well, now we can use this and actually help you make the decision and also see what is really going on because people will tell you, you should buy a house. You shouldn't buy a house. There's a lot, but let's do the math on.
Yeah, so here we go. I've got my math here on, and then we're gonna write it up on the board. So I've done all the pre-math, so you don't have to. And I'm gonna on the board for you. Okay, here we go. We're gonna go in the way back machine, back in time to 2019.
Wow, way back machine, way
Way back machine.
feels like a long time ago. It does feel like 2019 does feel like forever, but it wasn't that far.
And then the latest, or I thought, so we found a chart from the Federal Reserve that shows the peak of the housing prices were in Q4 of 2022. So we're going to make it Q4 2019 and Q4 2022. Now, according to the Federal Reserve, the average sales price of a home in Q4 of 2019, I mean, was 384,600. We're going to round. We'll just say 3. So the average price 385. Okay?
All right,
385.
385. That's a good average.
Average house sales price. In Q4 of 2022, the average sales price was a whopping 552,600. We'll round to 553. So right there, we've got a huge increase in the housing cost. If you're buying this as a place to live, big difference. If you're renting from somebody that bought it, right, they're going to charge you more rent. So if you had back in 2019, if you got a 3.25% interest rate, I've seen a ton of 3.25% interest rate mortgages. So let's say that's what you got then. Really great
Yeah,
rate.
that's a really good
Yeah.
interest rate.
Now,
At least
so as of 2023, interest rates have come down a little bit. They're hovering around average 30-year mortgage interest rate of 7.49%.
that's like double.
Not quite double, but almost double. Yeah, for sure. So if bigger increase in the cost of the home and then also a bigger increase in the interest. What does that mean for your monthly payment? And then also for the interest that you pay. Look, we're going to look at both of those. So monthly payment. $1,674. $1,674 rounding on the 3.25 at 385. The 553 at 7.49 is $3,860 per.
And that's probably for the same house.
Yeah, the
right?
same house.
Same exact house.
Yeah, the average American home. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a difference of $2,186 per month
Wow.
going to a mortgage payment.
Wow. That's-
Holy cow. Let's write that. 2186. Okay. Now let's look at how much you paid in interest. So that's the interest rate up here, but how much did you actually pay in interest? The total cost of the home. Actually, let's erase that. Total cost of the home. So after you pay the mortgage and you pay all the interest, how much does that home really cost you? We're not factoring in any insurance or property taxes or maintenance repairs, just principal and interest. This 2019 home cost $603,000 rounding.
Gotcha. 603
Okay.
with that
3.25.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready for this? Hold your breath.
Same house. If it's 553 now.
$1.39 million.
Well,
$1,390,000.
that's a
That's a way more expensive home.
$1 million home.
Yeah. So you can see the price didn't quite double. The interest rate doubled. That total cost of the home more than doubled.
Wow.
Right? Now, if you're following us for a while, you might know that there's another number that we would factor into the total cost of the home.
What is that number, Amanda?
Do you know?
I think it's what could that money have done for you or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. This extra monthly payment, what would that look like if it had been saved instead of going toward the principal and interest on the home?
The 2,186. What would it
Yeah.
be?
So after 30 years, okay, putting this into your bank account or into an account every single month, if it was growing at 1%, okay, like 2019 interest rates,
Yeah,
if
right.
it's growing at 1%, it would grow to $917,000. So that you were able to pay this much for your home, but you're also able to save $917,000. So you can, if you're buying your home at 30, you're retiring at 60, you've got a paid off home and potentially $917,000. If you got 1% every single month for 30 years.
1% is like low.
Yeah. But hopefully what is happening as interest rates are increasing on mortgages is that they're also increasing on accounts, right? Interest rates are increasing. So let's say this goes up to 4.24%. Why do I choose 4.24%? Because it's the same 3+% increase in the mortgage rate. Now I know banks don't ever give you the full amount of the interest that they charge you in terms of how much they increase savings rate, but just for the fun of math, let's see what happens. So if you're saving that $2,186 per month for 30 years at 4.7 or 4.24%.
Yep.
You have over $1.5 million. Over $1.5 million. It's actually closer to 1.6 if we're rounding, but we can be conservative. So let's recap what we did here. We took a home in 3 years, made it more than twice as expensive for the principal and interest, and we made it so that people don't build $1.5 million extra for their retirement, somewhere between 900 and 1.5, right? Like that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Not only because now I know not everybody would save all of the money from their home,
And to retirement or something like that.
right? They might spend it, but I mean, even if they saved half of that, or that kind of thing, that can make a big difference.
So that difference for me isn't just on savings, but the quality of life, right? The able to do other things, have family trips or I don't know, things like that. And what that shows me is the transfer of wealth that's happening isn't necessarily, again, looking at do we buy a home in 2019 or 2022 or, all that stuff.
Yeah,
Who's profiting off of this? Again,
right.
I'm looking at the difference, the math, and saying, oh, wow, somebody's making a lot of money off of this, and it's not
Yeah.
us.
And it's also a much more complicated issue than a lot of people realize because, sure, maybe not everybody saves that 2,000, but they're also not spending that 2,000, and demand and spending has decreased as well. And you have to think is if more of our money is going to housing, that makes it difficult. But we left out one important group, that's the renters. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've got some numbers for you. I won't draw them up here. I'm just going to go over them quickly. But let's say you're a renter right now and maybe you're paying 2,000 extra in rent because the person that owns the home is paying 2,000 extra
Yep.
in on their mortgage. But also if you wanted to save up to buy one of those homes and you're trying to save up a 20% down payment in 2019, that 20% down payment would be um, about 77,000. In 2022, that down payment would have been about 111,000. That's $34,000 more that you
Yeah.
have to save. And if you're so one strategy, if you're a renter, sometimes what people will do to get to their down payment is pretend like they're paying their mortgage payment, and that's what they try to save up. So let's say you're trying to save up and you're doing that kind of strategy, pretending like you're paying a mortgage. It would take you an extra 8 months, 9 months to be able to buy that home.
Yeah.
Because you have to save up that extra 34,000 of down payment. That's a big deal. That's going to keep a lot of people renting, taking them longer to get to, to purchasing a home, all those kind of things. And then also factor, it's not just the down payment, it's also of your income. They want you to make sure if you're getting qualified for a mortgage, that the mortgage is about 30% of your income or less. And that might actually be total housing costs. So including property taxes
Yeah.
and insurance. Well, let's say we're just looking at the principal and interest as 30% of your income. You in 2019 to qualify for that mortgage, you need about 67,000 of household income. Now you need 154,000. That's a pretty big deal in terms of we need wages to increase so that people can afford the houses
Which is our last.
and be responsible keeping that 30% below their houses and all those kind of things. Yeah, go ahead and talk about our last episode.
Yeah. Our last
or
episode
2 episodes
was
ago.
about should we make more or how's that work? I also was thinking, I was talking to somebody just the other day, and they were asking me, a mom, single mom, divorced and all that, wanting to buy a home. And she said, I have this saved up. Should I buy a home right now? And this is part of the reason we did the video. I was like, well, I'm going to do a video on this actually. And we've done the math. Should she buy a home? She has 70,000 saved in a small account. Is that wise or not wise? Again, we don't know, but let the math show. And it's going to cost her a lot more to buy
Right.
that home today than it was 3 years ago.
But let's talk about why it could still make sense. So interest rates could come down, housing prices could come down. If you have plenty of buffer, you're not going to use all of your savings for the down payment. So that if housing prices do come down and you're underwater on the mortgage, then you have some buffer that you can use. Also, if you lose your job, you've got that buffer. So that's one of the key criteria, buffer. And then the second would be if interest rates come down, but housing prices stay up, you could always do a refinance of that mortgage to lower the interest rate. It's called a rate and term
Yeah.
refinance. So that's don't forget that you have that option too. So that's our take on the housing market. We always like to bring hope who knows what's going to happen? Historically, when there's been bubbles burst, they do recover, but it could take a long time. If you are um, worried about it, please reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you and help you not be worried about it and figure out ways that you can take control, take action, no matter what the banks and the Federal Reserve and all of those folks do with um, interest rates and how that drives housing price changes and new houses being built and all those things too.
And the bottom line is it's complicated on when to and why we even do financial analysis and where, your 401k, your savings, all of these things can intersect, impact each other. And so that's why we do a full financial analysis is to say, well, what are your goals? How do you want to accomplish this? Should you or will you buy a home today? Is it good for you or not? And if you're a investor, is it time to invest or not? There's so much to it.
Yep. So we'll conclude with saying it might not be a good time to buy a home, or it could be a good time to buy a home, but we know for sure it's a good time to create a financial strategy and hone in on your goals so that you can make powerful decisions. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, and where we're probably going to talk a little bit more about retirement and what that 1.5 million, if it's, is that even enough to retire, or the 900,000 we talked about before. How do you know that is where you're going, and how do you control things like housing and how they impact your eventual retirement? So subscribe so you don't miss that next episode.
And leave a comment, right? The comments in there, we really appreciate those. If you like Amanda's hair, which people have said, if you, love this kind of thing that we're doing here, love to hear. We want to get more and more people thinking smartly about their finances and their financial future.
So live long and profit. The topics presented in this podcast are for general information only and not for the purposes of providing legal, accounting, or investment advice on such matters. Please consult a professional who knows your specific situation.